The station Helion 5 circled the dying red giant, its vast ring glittering with the lights of 1,000 embassies. Warships from every known empire hovered in precise formation outside, their guns silent but watchful. Inside, the air carried the sharp tang of ozone and the hushed weight of unspoken threats. Commander Eric Valen stepped off the shuttle ramp with his aide, Lieutenant Sarah Corrin, at his side. Both wore the plain black of United Terran Confederacy envoys, unadorned, deliberate. Among the richly robed aliens and gilded armor of the Dominion's retinue, humanity's simplicity looked like defiance. Sarah leaned closer, voice low. Their fleet outnumbers ours 10-1. If this goes bad, nothing we send will hold them back. Eric's gaze lingered on the armored silhouettes of Tirzal guards flanking the corridor, each twice his height. He adjusted the collar of his jacket. Then it won't go bad, he said steady, though the scar across his jaw twitched with the memory of other battles that had gone very badly indeed. The grand chamber was built to intimidate. A vaulted dome stretched above, lined with silver spires that hummed faintly. Delegates of 100 species filled the tiers, their eyes glinting as the human envoy entered. At the far end, upon a raised dais, waited High Executor Xyrix Talvor, Supreme Commander of the Dominion fleets. Xyrix rose with deliberate slowness, towering, his scaled body shimmering with faint bioluminescence. His voice rolled like distant thunder. So, the children of Earth arrive. Frail bones wrapped in soft flesh, daring to call themselves an empire. A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Eric clasped his hands behind his back. We are not children, Executor. We are the United Terran Confederacy. And we are here to secure peace. Peace? Xyrix's fanged mouth curled. Peace is the privilege of the strong. Your kind plays at strength, but I see fragility. You break easily. The words hung in the air. Some delegates chuckled. Others shifted uncomfortably. Eric let the silence stretch until even the hum of the spires seemed to lean closer. Fragile things endure in ways the mighty never imagine, he said evenly. You've seen a reed bend in the storm while the oak shatters? Xyrix leaned forward, claws tapping the railing before him. Poetry. A weakling's shield. Shall I show you how easily your reed burns? He gestured, and the chamber's central hollow projector flared. Earth hung in the air, blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. The executor's taloned hand swept down. The planet turned black, oceans boiling away, continents cracking. A simulation of extinction. Your cradle, Xyrix said, savoring each word, would wither to ash in a single strike. That is the fate of those who refuse the Dominion. Gasps fluttered through the tiers. Sarah's nails bit into her datapad. Eric stood unmoving, his eyes locked on the executor. You boast of fire, Eric said quietly. We have walked through fire before. Xyrix's slit-pupilled eyes narrowed. Perhaps I should demonstrate further. At his signal, a Tirzal guard dragged forward a human envoy, a junior attaché taken on some manufactured pretext. The guard lifted a crackling blade. No! Sarah stepped forward, but Eric's arm blocked her. He didn't move otherwise. His eyes never left Xyrix. The blade struck. The envoy crumpled, lifeless, to the polished floor. The smell of burnt flesh coiled through the chamber. Laughter rolled from the Tirzal delegation. Some alien onlookers joined it. But others, Valari, Kathori, Yuln, watched in silence, their expressions unreadable. Sarah trembled with fury. Commander! Hold, Eric said, voice low and controlled. He still hadn't looked at the body. He refused Xyrix that satisfaction. The executor spread his claws. This is mercy. Submit, and Earth will live. Defy me, and you join him. Eric let the silence stretch until it grew painful. Then, at last, he stepped forward, every movement measured. His voice was calm, but it carried. You mistake restraint for weakness, Executor. Mercy for fear. Do not test the difference. For the first time, Xyrix hesitated. It lasted only a heartbeat, but the chamber felt it. The laughter faltered. A Valari delegate whispered to his neighbor, too softly for most to hear, but Eric caught it. The breakers. The word rippled through the tiers like a contagion. Alien eyes turned toward the humans, not with scorn now, but with unease. Some leaned back, as if distance could protect them. Zyrex barked a laugh to smother the tension. Legends. Shadows told by cowards. The galaxy is not afraid of humans. It pities them. Eric didn't answer. His silence was heavier than words, and it left the chamber unsettled. He turned to leave, Sarah at his side. She hissed under her breath. You let him kill one of ours. You said nothing. Eric's jaw clenched. If I had spoken then, the chamber would already be red with blood. They passed beneath the vaulted archway, Tearzell guards glaring down. Sarah pressed on, voice tight. You can't let him keep doing this. If he thinks we'll accept humiliation, he already thinks it. Eric's voice dropped to something darker, something that made her fall silent. What he doesn't understand is what happens when we stop thinking peace is possible. Behind them, the chamber buzzed with whispers. The word carried again, low and fearful. Breakers. Eric walked on, face unreadable, but inside his chest an old weight stirred, the memory of Arcturus, of fire that consumed cities, of enemies who begged for death rather than see what broken humans became. He had sworn never again. But the Dominion was pushing, and he felt the cracks forming. When humans break, he thought, even gods will shudder. And Zyrex had no idea how close he was to finding out. Hellion 5's corridors curved like veins of steel and glass, the light from the dying red giant bleeding through every viewport. Commander Eric Valen walked with steady strides, though Lieutenant Sarah stayed close, her jaw tight with barely contained rage. They entered the private quarters reserved for the Terran delegation. The silence followed them inside like a shadow. Only when the door sealed did Sarah speak. You let him murder one of ours. Her voice cracked with anger. We all saw it, Eric. And you stood there. Eric poured water into a glass, the tremor in his scarred hand almost invisible. He drank, then set the glass down with deliberate calm. If I had stopped him, Sarah, half the chamber would be corpses by now, including us. So we just swallow it? That was a human life. It was one life, Eric said, meeting her eyes. One too many, yes. But if I'd answered violence with violence, we'd have lost billions. You don't win wars in a single room, you survive them. Sarah shook her head, pacing. You sound like you're already preparing for surrender. Eric didn't rise to the bait. He leaned against the table, shoulders heavy with memories. You've never seen what happens when we stop holding back, Lieutenant. Hours later, the Neutral Wing's mess hall was crowded with alien envoys. Eric sat apart, letting the hum of voices wash over him. Sarah joined reluctantly, still simmering. Before either could speak, a tall, silver-skinned figure approached. The Valari Envoy bowed with subtle grace. His elongated eyes gleamed like liquid mercury. Commander Valen. A word, if I may. Eric gestured to the empty seat. Envoy. The Valari lowered himself, robes whispering against the bench. His voice was soft, but every word carried. You should be careful. The Tearzell believe they are testing your resolve. What they do not understand is that they are nearing something far more dangerous. Eric's gaze narrowed. Go on. The envoy studied him for a long moment, as though weighing the cost of words. Finally, among my people, there is a saying. When humans break, even the gods shudder. Sarah stiffened. Eric remained still. You've heard it before, the envoy observed. Eric's scar twitched. I lived it. The Valari inclined his head. So did others. Stories spread, Commander. The siege of Arcturus. The campaigns in the Vega Rift. They say humans do not surrender. They do not die as they should. They persist. Even when broken, you endure, and in that endurance you become something terrible. Do you deny this? Eric didn't answer. He could still see Arcturus in his mind's eye, cities burning under their own suns, soldiers fighting in the ash long after hope had ended. The Valari's words weren't legend. They were memory. The envoy leaned closer. Do not let the Dominion break you, Commander. If they succeed, the galaxy will drown in fear of you. He rose, leaving them in silence. Sarah finally breathed, whispering, He fears us more than he fears them. Eric rubbed his scar. That's because he knows the truth. The following day's session began with calculated venom. The chamber swelled with alien voices as the Tirzal delegation entered. High Executor Xyrix ascended his dais with the slow confidence of a predator. Commander Valen, Xyrix thundered, your people cling to rocks in the Vega sector, claiming territory that belongs to the Dominion. You will surrender them immediately, or Earth itself will suffer. Murmurs spread. The demand was no longer cloaked in diplomacy. It was a threat made naked. Eric stood calm but unyielding. The Vega colonies are sovereign. They will not be abandoned. Xyrix's claws tightened on the railing. You bargain as if your fleets match ours. They do not. You gamble with your species' survival. You mistake this for a gamble, Eric said. It is resolve. There's a difference. A wave of unease swept the chamber. Delegates leaned forward, waiting for blood. Xyrix snarled. Then resolve will be your ruin. Eric's voice dropped, steady as stone. So be it. The silence afterward felt heavier than any weapon. Later, away from the chamber, Sarah caught his arm. Eric, he'll push again tomorrow. You know he will. Eric looked out a viewport at the Dominion warships glittering beyond the station. His reflection was hollowed by fatigue, but his eyes burned. Yes, he said quietly. And when he does, we'll be standing exactly where we are now. Not yielding. Sarah's voice cracked. But how long can we stand before something breaks? He turned to her, and for a heartbeat she saw the man he kept buried, the soldier from Arcturus. Lieutenant, that's the part the Executor doesn't understand. Breaking us doesn't end the fight. It begins it. That night, Eric lay awake in his quarters, staring at the dim ceiling. Sleep didn't come. His mind replayed the siege, the screams, the firestorms, the moment he gave the order that burned half a continent to deny the enemy ground. Allies had stared at him with horror. Even victory had tasted like ash. He pressed his hand to his face, whispering into the silence. Never again. Yet deep inside, beneath the scars, something stirred, an old weight coiled like a predator waiting for release. The Dominion thought humans were fragile. Perhaps they were right. But fragility, when shattered, could cut deeper than any blade. And if the Executor kept pressing, he would learn just how sharp humanity could become. The Grand Assembly Chamber of Hellion 5 was filled to its edges. Species from 100 systems crowded the tiers, their voices a low storm of speculation. Rumors had raced ahead of the session, the Dominion's patience had run dry, and Earth's fate would be decided today. Commander Eric Valen entered with Lieutenant Sarah at his side. The stares that followed them were no longer mocking. Some were curious. Others cautious. Many held fear. High Executor Xyrix Talvor waited atop his dais, scales glowing faintly beneath the chamber's light. He stood with deliberate weight, claws drumming against the railing. His voice cut through the murmurs like a blade. Commander Valen, the Dominion offers one final chance. Surrender your colonies, dismantle your fleets, kneel before the throne, and Earth will be spared. Refuse, and your species burns. The chamber hushed. All eyes turned to the human envoy. Eric rose slowly, every movement deliberate, his scar catching the light. He scanned the chamber, not just Xyrix, but every alien watching. His voice was calm, measured, yet it carried with a force that made the spires hum. You call us fragile. You call us children. Yet here we stand. We asked for peace. We bled for it. But do not mistake mercy for weakness. Xyrix sneered, spreading his arms. And what are you without mercy? What are you when broken? Eric's gaze hardened. When we are broken, that's when you should fear us most. A ripple coursed through the chamber. Delegates shifted uneasily. Some whispered the word again, hushed but urgent. Breakers. Xyrix laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Legends and fear stories. Nothing more. Eric straightened. Then let me remind you. He gestured, and Sarah activated the hollow sequence. The chamber darkened. Images filled the air, scorched battlefields on Arcturus where human soldiers fought in choking ash, their bodies riddled with radiation burns, yet they still advanced. Vega Rift, where Terran fleets, out of ammunition, rammed enemy flagships rather than surrender. Frozen colonies on Zora 9, where civilians starved but refused to bow to occupying forces, resisting until rescue arrived. The footage showed not triumph, but endurance beyond reason. Soldiers dragging themselves forward on shattered limbs. Fleets burning themselves out to take their enemies with them. Faces hollowed by exhaustion, yet eyes lit with defiance. The delegates recoiled. Whispers swelled into open voices, some fearful, some horrified. Xyrix's smile faltered. You dare parade desperation as strength? Eric's voice cut like steel. Strength isn't measured by comfort. It's measured by what remains when nothing is left. Break us, Executor, and you will see. We fight long past the point where others fall. We rise from ashes you thought final. We endure until there is nothing left of our enemy but silence. For a moment, no one breathed. The Valarianva rose from his seat, his voice carrying across the chamber. I have seen this with my own eyes. At Arcturus, humans burn their own cities rather than yield ground. The Dominion should heed its own arrogance. This is no bluff. More voices joined. Some in warning, others in fear. The air thickened with unease. Xyrix slammed his claws down, sparks flying. Enough! The Dominion does not fear a race that clings to survival like vermin. We will crush you. Eric stepped forward, close enough that the Executor's towering form loomed above. His voice lowered, but it carried like thunder. Crush us, then. Burn Earth. Break every bone we have. But know this, when you do, we will not fade. We will not beg. We will not stop. We will come for you in the dark, in the silence, in the ruins you leave behind. You will never rest. You will never know peace again. Break us, and you will learn why even gods shudder when they speak our name. The chamber was dead silent. Xyrix stared down at him. For the first time, there was no mockery in his gaze, only the flicker of doubt. His mouth opened, then closed. His claws stilled. The silence stretched. Finally, Xyrix turned, cloak swirling. The Dominion will reconsider. His words tasted of ash. He strode from the chamber, his entourage trailing in his wake. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted over one another, fear and awe mingling in every voice. Some fled as though distance could shield them from what they had just seen. Others stared at Eric as if beholding a storm chain behind human eyes. Sarah whispered beside him, voice barely audible. We didn't fire a shot. No, Eric said, eyes still locked on the empty dais. We fired a warning. Later, in the quiet of their quarters, Sarah sat across from him. So it worked. They'll back down. For now, Eric replied. He removed his jacket, shoulders heavy with fatigue. But they'll never see us the same. Not as allies. Not as equals. As something else. Sarah frowned. Monsters? Eric looked at his scarred reflection in the viewport, Earth's distant star a pale speck among the galaxy. Survivors, he said. That's what we are. And survival terrifies them more than any weapon. Sarah was silent for a long time. Then, softly, do you ever regret Arcturus? Eric closed his eyes. The screams still lived there, the fire, the silence afterward. Every day. But regret doesn't change the truth. We did what we had to. And if forced again, we will. He opened his eyes, voice iron once more. Pray they never make us prove it. The station lights dimmed to night cycle, but the chamber's whispers would not fade. Across Helion 5, across empires, the words spread anew. A warning, a truth, a prophecy. When humans break, even the gods shudder. And somewhere, deep in Dominion space, High Executor Xyrix Talvor sat in silence, his claws unmoving, haunted not by weakness, but by the fear that he had glimpsed the storm waiting to be unleashed.